Twitter. I was live streaming earlier today, and toward the end, I kind of went into a tangent on my live stream, and I think I might have left people confused as to what I was talking about. So I thought I'd back online right now and kind of explain a little bit more as to what I was talking about. The topic that I was discussing, it was a review on what I had spoken earlier about national divorce, but I went into a tangent to talk about our Congress, and because somehow I got into the talk about impeachment, and I said that certain people in Congress were trying to impeach people in the administration and stuff like that. But I didn't go into any names and any specifics. And upon reviewing the stream, I realized that even I was looking at it kind of perplexed. So I wanted to take this opportunity to try to clarify a little bit as to what I was talking about. As you know, not too long ago, one of the representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives has started talking about initializing impeachment proceedings, or the impeachment articles for the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. This representative was Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona. He's a Republican. And he was wanting to impeach Mayorkas simply because Mayorkas hasn't done anything to protect the border. Well, the kicker to all this is that the president and his administration is not directly responsible for the border. If we go back and we look at our history over the last several presidential administrations, both Democrat, Republican, you can see that each administration has passed one form of immigration law or rule, either by executive order or by formal rule or whatever the case may be, and that rule or that executive order always gets sued and taken to federal court. It happened in the Obama administration. It happened in the Trump administration. It's even happened in their predecessors. Clinton, I think, was another example, and maybe George Bush. So, but what I'm getting at is that each time these rules were sued in court and the cases were presented in the federal courts, the underlying or the common denominator was the ruling that was given by the federal courts, by the Supreme Court. And that explanation has always been paramount and has been the same throughout history. And that is that the President of the United States and his administration cannot change and modify or pass any laws whatsoever. It's Congress's job. Now, our immigration system is broken. It has been overwhelmed for over 40 years. And the issue with our immigration system is not that it's not being enforced. It's just that the laws that are on the books, they're not really equipped or not really designed to handle the mass influx of immigrants that we have coming into our nation today. So that's where the issue lies. Laws have to have been, legislation has to have been passed to modify, to improve the laws and the resources that are necessary to be able to maintain our U.S. borders, and that has not happened. Congress has refused repeatedly over the course of the last 40 years to pass any legislation to modify, to improve, or to address the problems in our immigration system. And now this particular representative, Andy Biggs, is trying to impeach the head of the Homeland Security because he says, you're not doing your job. It's not that he's not doing his job. Representative Biggs. It's that the laws that he's enforcing, they are not adequate to meet the demand of all of these influx of immigrants coming into the country. So I think the question here is, and this is to the U.S. House, to the U.S. Senate, to both parties, especially the Republican Party, because they're the ones that are adamant that the president needs to enforce the border. The question is this: how do you make a person, in this case the president or his administration, who is not directly responsible for immigration law other than to enforce the laws that are already on the books, which are broken, how do you hold him or his cabinet, in this case Secretary Mayorkas, responsible for the failures that Congress themselves have not been able to correct? I'd like an answer to that question, and I think that our representatives in Washington, they need to address it, and they need to come up front and talk about it. They need to have the balls, forgive me for saying that, to come in and own the mess that they've created, rather than trying to punish individuals that are not legally responsible according to federal courts. That's what I was trying to get at in my tangent that I was talking about earlier this evening in my last stream, is that Congress is so messed up, they're trying to pin the blame on somebody else for their negligence. How can they do that? I don't know what mentality they're proceeding on, but it makes no sense. It's illogical as it sounds. And that is kind of what I was getting at. Now, another representative is trying to impeach, I think it was Pete Buttigieg, for his failure in not arriving in Ohio quick enough after the train derailment. But that's a different story and a different angle. But Congress is basically, they're trying to force, especially the Conservative Party is trying to force their political beliefs and ideals on as Americans, and on the colleagues on the other side and all this. Another questionable thing that has happened in Congress, and I wanted to take this opportunity to address it, even though it was not in my original plan when I did this live stream, is the fact that in the news it was noted that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has given 42,000 hours of video footage from the January 6th insurrection. I think that the Speaker's decision in handing that footage to that one individual is questionable at the least. Number one, a lot of reports have been coming out about Fox News over the course of the last several days that apparently they've known certain information about the election, about the January 6th, or about what certain things that have occurred, and instead of reporting the facts that were given to them, they turned it and flipped it and lied about what they were reporting to benefit their conservative friends and colleagues. So you've got this controversy that's coming out of Fox News, and then you got the Speaker of the House that is giving this footage to one of their most biased, in my opinion, reporters or journalists. He's not even a journalist; he's a talk show host. You're giving him all this footage for him to review and present it to the public. How do you know he is going to present it in an honest manner? You don't. Number one, you don't know the guy's reputation. Number two, if you're gonna release that type of amount of footage, it has to be released to all medias, all mainstream media. You cannot be biased in that respect in giving all this valuable footage to only one network. You have to be fair and to the other networks that are covering the news. That's straight out biased. It's prejudiced, and I hope it's illegal. I think Speaker Kevin McCarthy needs to go ahead and, address this, correct it, make sure these other networks get this footage. ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Associated Press, even the newspaper sites, the Washington Post, the New York Times, Houston Chronicle, Dallas Morning News. Get the footage out everywhere in an unbiased, unpartisan manner. That is your duty, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and you're not doing it. Your actions are so biased that your credibility is going more and more down. And I think that you made a mistake and you need to address it. I mean, it's things like that make us doubt whether or not our Congress, this Congress, is fair, is correct, earlier this evening I was responding to another representative. He says we're looking for a new transportation secretary, and he puts these qualifications because that he needs to be there. He cannot disappear for days on end, and I don't know what other points he put. And I went back and I responded. I told him, okay, well, and basically what happened was we need a new Congress, new U.S. House and U.S. Senate. We need a Congress that'll actually sit down and come to an agreement and pass legislation that will benefit our country. Number one. And number two, we need a Congress that'll spend more time working together than arguing and fighting each other. And I put as a PS on it. I said, because our Congress is broken and they haven't done a dang thing, basically. So, I mean, it's time for a change. And as I said earlier in my earlier stream, we as Americans, if it's not us, then who? We need to hold our elected officials accountable. If it's not us that as American citizens that do it, then who? I mean, our elected officials need to start working and start addressing situations not with their political blinders on, but what's ethically correct, morally correct, legally correct, and what's legally correct, stuff that do things that will benefit the country and that gets us back on track. They're not doing that. They need to own all their messes, and they need to get this straight once and for all. I have nothing more to say. I hope that I was able to clarify kind of what I said toward the end of my last stream, and I added some stuff tonight that I didn't have planned. So hopefully I'll see you guys another time. I'm going to try to keep streaming more frequently, and we'll have more topics to talk about later. Thank you, and have a